Stokvels have grown significantly in South Africa and continue to remain resilient during the pandemic and tough economic times. For decades, Stokvels have played a significant role in encouraging a culture of saving while helping members improve their financial well-being. While many members are looking forward to splitting their Stokvel payouts ahead of the holiday season, fraudsters are also eagerly awaiting and looking for ways to scam members of their Stokvel contributions. Of course, stock-related robberies become prevalent at this particular time of the year. So we're going to be having that conversation with an analyst right now to give us some perspective in terms of the measures that you need to be keeping in mind when withdrawing and sharing your money. And we're joined by Sifiso, who's from actually FNB Stokvels and Group Savings head to talk to us about what exactly to keep in mind. That is Sifiso Nkosi. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, before we even get to some of the tips that consumers and those who are part of Stokvels need to keep in mind, from the data you're looking at as FNB, I mean, what's your sense of the recovery from a Stokvel point of view, especially as we deal with pandemics and we deal with people having lost their jobs and various other issues that may have affected Stokvel members?
Over the last 24 months, Nzinga, it's been incredible to actually see how the Stokvel market remains very resilient. Over the last 2 years, we've seen Stokvels continue to grow in double digits, that is 10% and above. And this is despite the impact of COVID-19 on the overall economy. I think speaking to some of our customers, we've understood that more than ever, they realize the importance of having a savings platform like a Stokvel. And I think we remain pleasantly surprised, but also very excited about the role that Stokvels play in the economy, because this continued saving has ensured that some members have been able to navigate the tough economic times, such as layoffs, whereas some members have actually decided to contribute even more, seeing the value of saving via such a platform, such as a Stokvel.
Speaking of being pleasantly surprised, it's quite interesting to see how Stokvels are starting to appeal to millennials as well, because typically there's been this, interpretation that Stokvels are for people who are much, much older than all of us, perhaps who are part of a burial society of some kind, or church members and much older community members. But the way in which it's been embraced, and I suppose even the creativity around what Stokvels invest their money in, surely for you as FNB is quite interesting.
It is extremely interesting. I think a lot of the younger market that we speak of have grown up in households where umama or gogo have been part of a Stokvel. And I think they themselves start to realize the power of group savings. So ideas such as crowdfunding, for example, have been a growing trend all over the world. And I think looking locally and across the continent, a lot of the younger market are looking and saying, actually, we've got parents and grandparents that have done this form of saving. And quite interestingly, businesses are starting to be funded from such initiatives. So we've got Stokvels where business owners are coming together to purchase franchises. And as an example, we've got Stokvels that have incorporated into actual companies with shareholding as more and more people start using the group savings platform to kind of further their business interests, but also to benefit as individuals.
Right, so let's get into those tips for withdrawing one's Stokvel contributions safely during this festive season. What should we be keeping in mind?
I think the first thing we should acknowledge, Nzinga, is the fact that Stokvel is such a well-known platform that unfortunately fraudsters will also be looking to target those withdrawals over these months. So we know the months of December and January are very popular for withdrawals. Therefore, from a tips and guidance perspective, we like to always urge or encourage the use of electronic banking. That is either through cell phone banking, using the FNB app as an example, or even online banking. I think what this does is it removes the need to hold cash, because this is primarily the area that fraudsters like to target. And then it also ensures that members actually get paid directly to their accounts. So not only are members safeguarded, but also the signatories or administrators of the Stokvel are also safeguarded, because then there's no actual exchange of cash. We do get the feedback, though, from some of our customers as well as Stokvel members mentioning that in certain parts of the country, cash remains king. Therefore, for those Stokvels that do withdraw in cash, I think it's critically important to make sure that the administrators or signatories of those Stokvels are actually together when withdrawing those funds. things like not announcing or posting on social media become increasingly important as well, because in that way you can safeguard yourself and making sure that you don't announce your plans, because as we know, there'll be many people watching. But overall, I think the use of digital banking, which COVID-19 has accelerated, possesses or shows us the biggest opportunity for groups to start transacting in that way to make sure that their money is safeguarded. And I know we've spent a lot of time focusing on the security aspect, but it's also important for members that have set aside money over the year through disciplined savings to also start thinking about the new year. So we know that schools will open, we will return to working. So some of those funds that are being withdrawn can already be put to things like the paying of school fees, the purchasing of school uniforms, and ensuring that all members that have saved so diligently throughout the year can then start off the year on a very strong financial footing.
So when it comes to those who may be watching this particular interview thinking, you know what, we're a group of friends, we know each other very well, it might be interesting to come together and have some kind of a group savings mechanism, one being a Stokvel. What do you keep in mind when you're thinking of putting a Stokvel together? Because this is probably the time where you take stock of your financial performance over the year and you're thinking, you know what, next year I want to be able to save with a collective in mind as opposed to trying to do it on my own.
Absolutely. I think the reason we see withdrawals this time of the year is because a lot of the members are starting to reflect on what the year has been and meant for them and their families, but also to start planning for their financial year. So I think the first thing when starting a Stokvel or any group savings platform is making sure that the element of trust is the base. If we're going to be setting aside our hard-earned money towards our financial goals, it's absolutely critical that the people that we select to be part of our group have the sense of trust. And I think that raises a lot of red flags when you belong to a Stokvel. Either you don't know what the intentions are, for example, or you aren't sure what the financial goals are. So as you start your Stokvel, I think let's ensure trust is the underlying principle. Let's also then highlight what are the goals that we're going for. Are we going to be saving in cash? Are we looking at a particular horizon like 12 months, or are we starting to look a lot longer term? Like we mentioned earlier, a lot of groups are now starting to look longer term, so are considering other assets such as the buying of shares, the buying of unit trusts, the purchasing of properties that then generate income. I think that becomes a very important consideration. Yeah. But more than anything, I think it's understanding that in a group context, consensus must always be reached amongst the members. Therefore, the power of saving as a group is very powerful. However, we should also consider that the human aspect is a very big driver. Hence, they have people around you that you trust.
Sifiso, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. That is Sifiso Nkosi, who's the group savings head at FNB.